Hi, welcome back to Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Judy Nathans.
And I'm Robert Winters. And we spent the last half hour obsessing on candidates and proportional representation, as certainly as I often do.
Yes.
Right? But there are other things happening around town. Let me say a couple quick little tag endings on the political stuff.
Okay.
There are at least 3 entities that I know of that will be either endorsing or putting together slates of candidates, however you want to call it, right? Okay. Certainly the Cambridge Residents Alliance has put out a questionnaire and a platform already. Okay. And they've solicited responses from various candidates who might seek endorsement. There's also the group Better Cambridge, who I think actually restructured themselves
so that they could endorse.
So they could do that without crossing the lines. I don't know.
They actually have a forum scheduled also.
Right. I think
which they did last year.
A few minutes ago I said there seems to be a group of women who may run as a slate. You can have overlapping slates. They don't have to be.
Right, you can be on 3 slates.
Well, you could be on multiple slates. It's absolutely true. And Nadeem Mazen, even though he's not a candidate, he was certainly sort of interviewing people, sort of trying to put together his own sort of group of candidates who meet his criteria. So that's
what would that be called? The progressive
slate? I'm going to always call them the Mazenoids anyway, but basically
I don't think they would like that.
Well, they wouldn't, but the thing is that it's unlike an organization that endorses, it's kind of a unique phenomenon of having an individual organizing.
Well, but he's involved with a lot of political stuff, so it could be separate from his name.
But he's the one who's putting it together.
Oh, I know, but it doesn't have to be his name.
So, there could be, 3 or 4 or more entities who are actually basically putting out advice saying these are the right ones and these are the wrong ones.
Doesn't Green Cambridge endorse? I know they have a forum, but do they endorse?
I don't know that Green Cambridge endorses as such. They might. They certainly put out a questionnaire and then they publish the responses, which is the way a Better Cambridge did it in past years. They didn't outright endorse so much as they gave scores for how people responded, which for all intents and purposes is the same as endorsement, but it probably didn't sort of cross any create legal problems by doing it that way. So I imagine there'll be multiple slates and organizing principles. There's actually a ballot question. It's not a binding question. It's an advisory.
Well, it's yet to be put.
It's yet to be, and it may not make it, but it's it's put together by some pretty political people. Basically asking the public if they believe or want to have publicly financed municipal elections, right? But without specifying any details at all what that means, which is curious, but I don't know really how they.
Yeah, I was wondering, does it mean that you can elect to not take the money like they do in the federal one? I mean,
nobody says. I think people are just saying, well, do you think it's a good idea?
I don't think, it probably would be an option, an opt-in or opt-out kind of thing.
It could be, but the way I look at it, just sort of looking at how much people actually spend on the municipal elections.
What did that figure, or somebody?
Actually, I could say a few things.
$73,000.
Well, it's interesting because I think Jan Devereaux put out something on her website today, basically saying, well, she only spent a certain amount of money, and she said that the average campaign was over $70K 2 years ago. That's not true.
Oh.
I mean, I'll actually tell you what the figures are. I mean, just to actually know what remember there were 23 candidates.
Right.
So to me, average is sort of a bad number to use
70
anyway,
would
because
not be right.
you're averaging. There were a few candidates who spent $0 because they were very fringy. Should you average them in?
What was the highest amount spent?
It's actually David Marr, and it's a little undisputed as to what the total amount is because it's so anomalous. Funds? Yeah, the problem is that I was trying to figure this out today.
Yeah.
If in the expense report, that often includes things like when you have your bank account transfers money because you changed banks. So at least in one case from 2015, I think it was Mazen's account, they switched banks, so you had to subtract out $18,000 or something because it wasn't a real expense; it was just a transfer.
Oh, and also, what if you had money left over from your previous campaign?
Right. So there are some candidates who actually paid back loans. Yeah. So in David Marr's total, which was like over 100,000 in there,
Wow.
I think that actually includes quite a bit, which was actually candidate loan repayments from previous years.
So you're saying if you average these numbers, it doesn't
so-
come out to 70?
No.
Okay.
Actually, it's not far, but basically and I would use the median, because now if you include
Yeah.
all candidates, so this
Right.
in 2015, the median total expenses, and I counted for starting from January 1st of the election year to the end of February the following year, because there's some bills that get paid afterwards,
Right, yeah,
and that's kind of usually enough.
yeah.
So in fact, the median was about 40,000 overall. And the median amongst winning candidates was 64,000.
Wow. So
Which
you
is
have to spend
expensive.
money to win.
You got to spend money
Yeah.
to win. But it is kind of misleading to be throwing the numbers around, because the truth is that if you're a credible candidate, the money comes to you because of your credibility. It's not like you just suddenly, illicitly raised $70,000.
Okay, Mr. Mathot, what's the difference again between a mean and a median?
Well, to calculate the mean, you just add up all the money that was spent
Yeah.
and divide by, so you add up all the money spent and divide by the number of candidates.
Okay, that's the
So
median.
you sort of say how much the average amount per candidate.
Okay, and then the median.
And the median
is-
basically, because if you have one sort of anomalous person who spent way above everybody else,
Right,
that would skew everything.
right.
But if you also have a bunch who spent nothing, that could also skew things.
You should throw
So-
those out to
So
get
what you
the
do
average.
is that's what median
okay,
does. That's
yeah.
why it's the better measure. So what you do
Okay.
is you just basically sort them by least to most,
Yeah,
and then just go who's in the middle, right in the middle, and that's the median.
that's interesting. Story
Yeah.
slams are done that way.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the high score's thrown out and the low score's
Well,
thrown
actually,
out.
that's a good idea.
And then they look at the three remaining, and it's always
Right.
accurate.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's a valid question. Is that
Yeah.
too much money? And
Yeah.
and what is the actual effect of public financing? I mean, I suspect that public financing isn't going to give you any money in this particular order of magnitude. So basically, the candidate now people are going to probably criticize me for saying this, but
Okay.
basically, the credible candidates who naturally do draw money because they're credible candidates.
Yeah,
They might choose to take the public money, or maybe they can get some money that way. But the chief beneficiary are basically going to be the candidates
that are new.
who are not just new,
Oh.
because honestly, there are some candidates this year who are brand new who are raising a tremendous amount
Yeah,
of
well,
money
that's
without much
true.
effort at all.
You're right, you're right, you're right.
There are
Yeah.
actually several, at least 3 or 4, who
Yeah.
are doing fabulously well.
From local money, or can you tell?
Well, it's
Yeah.
I do keep track of that, and
Yeah.
I have it on a website.
Okay.
I rank them basically by percentage coming
People
from
always
Cambridge.
look at that like, well, wait a minute,
Yeah, but people are trying to make a big deal out of, well, are you going to take developer money?
Well, I'm not talking about the kind of money, I'm
Right.
talking about where it's coming
I know,
from.
but
I mean,
it's this weird red
Yeah.
herring that gets sort of put out there.
Yeah,
And so now there are some candidates who have taken money from people who are property owners who are developing properties, including people who are locals who they've known ever since they were kids,
yeah,
and they're not taking their money because they don't want to get branded by this
I'm
people
taking
who are
developer
making out
money,
you're
yeah.
a bad guy if you're doing this.
Yeah.
It's something that's sort of a sore spot for me because I'm friends with Patrick Barrett. Patrick is
Yeah.
a property owner and he develops some
Yeah.
properties and he contributes very freely to all things, including sponsoring events in
Yeah.
Central Square, and he
and he's
supports
he's
candidates.
an advocate for the city,
Yeah,
so,
and basically their candidates are saying, "Sorry, Patrick, I can't take your money because you're like verboten. You're like."
But you know what,
got
I
the
don't mind
scarlet
if a
letter."
candidate takes money from someone that's, because the candidate can say, look, you can give, doesn't mean I'm gonna be any more favorable or not to you.
I have not seen any evidence to support
Notice
the
the-
notion that
I know.
candidates are in the pocket of any of these guys. So anyway, but people are going to make it into a political
Sure.
campaign
Oh, yeah.
issue because
It's probably on their questionnaires.
right, so
Will
if-
you take money from
right.
developers?
So if you're an
Yeah.
0213, well, as we like to say, an 02138 type candidate who
Yeah.
has neighbors who are all gazillionaires, and
Hedge funds,
you get $500 and $1,000 contributions every
Yeah.
time you shake the bushes,
yeah,
right? And then somebody else from another part of town basically has to really work for it,
like Bernie.
yeah. So then,
$25 contributions.
the truth is that sometimes you may actually want to take money from
Yeah.
various other
Yeah.
sources. So anyway, so I think people are going to make it into a really big deal. Now, among other things that are happening this week, one thing that's happening is tomorrow is there's an ordinance committee meeting.
Which is going to be held where? At the high school?
It's actually at the adults meeting room at CRLS.
Which is smart.
And they were also
very hot tomorrow.
they were also working on something with the sound system, as they always are at City Hall.
Right, but it really is not air
They may
conditioned.
have finished that, but I think in the summer
Yes,
they tend to.
because that's where the city council meeting will be.
That's right. So the upcoming this week, among other things,
Yes.
there's an ordinance committee meeting.
3:30?
3:30 tomorrow. It's Wednesday at the adults meeting, the school committee meeting room at CRLS, and the subject is the Volpe. It's the MIT Volpe rezoning petition, which is really one of the biggest items.
So is that
short-term rentals are
but
sort
it's
of
a
two big
particular
items.
issue. They want it to be a PUD development or something? Or?
Right, a PUD, planned unit development. All right. There's also a city council meeting coming up this coming Monday, the one meeting that takes place during the summer.
Right.
It's on August 7th. So the essence of the MIT Volpe petition is that they want to create turn the Volpe site into a so-called planned unit development, PUD 7, which gives a lot more flexibility.
In terms of time limits and stuff, right? And
in terms of time limits, because if you're going to be building multiple buildings over a span of years, you don't build them all at once, so you don't go, seeking your permits all at once.
Right.
Well, you can get your permits all at once, but you don't build the buildings all at once. So it's beneficial to sort of phase it in over time. And for this particular site, the Volpe site, which is where it's.
Why don't you show people where it is?
Yeah, actually, we can sort of. So this is where the Volpe site is.
Yeah, in Kendall.
So it's in Kendall. So MIT is the chosen developer of the Volpe site. The tallest building in that reddish sector there is the existing Volpe Transportation Center.
Well,
that's the one you're.
Right here. You
right
can
above
hardly
there.
see it. Yeah.
Right.
Right there.
So it's the Volpe site itself kind of wraps around a residential building. That's Broadway.
That is Broadway, and then Main.
So it's bounded by Broadway on one side,
and what's
by
the street?
that's not a street, it's a walkway that aligns with 6th Street.
Okay.
Right, but it's a pedestrian way. Then it comes around down the other side on Binney Street.
This is Binney.
Yep.
Okay.
And then on the last side is 3rd Street, though it is broken up by a residential building at 303 3rd Street.
Okay.
Which actually kind of factors into the discussion to some degree.
That. Huh.
Because anything that's built on the Volpe site, the 303 3rd Street residents will be abutters. So they are trying to grab a big say here, trying to influence what city council does. And I'm sure they have good ideas, but they probably also have some just general concerns like you would have if somebody was building something.
So is MIT presenting their whole thing again tomorrow? Is that what happens at this meeting?
So basically right now, it's a little tricky because there's the ultimate plan, where the buildings go and what's in them.
Yeah.
But the zoning is not specifically about that. It's about laying out the parameters of what could be built.
Okay.
Right? Maybe with some restrictions. So for example, in the northwest corner is pretty much the only place that's feasible for the replacement building for the Volpe Transportation Center.
Of that plan?
Well, it might be, but it's further down, yeah.
Right.
So basically, you can't. The conditions are that the Volpe Center must continue operations, more or less continuously, except for the brief period when you move from one building to the other. So you basically build the new building while the old one is in place. So obviously you can't build the new building at the same location as the old one. So the feasible place is up in the northwest corner, basically at the more or less pushing the corner where the pedestrian way and Binney Street is.
Is that on here? Do you want to show
I don't know if that's the best one, but maybe we can sort of.
At least so it would be
here.
This corner
so
here.
So if you look at this, there's like a desire line pass through in this picture here, that purple.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that where the green spaces are in this picture is how it's going to really end up, but it's a possibility.
But where's the corner you're talking about?
Up at the top left. left.
Here, oh, this is the Volpe.
That would be the site.
And
where
they
the
have to
Volpe
build that
site
first, right?
was. So that would have to be built first,
Right.
and then presumably when that gets completed,
Yeah,
then they could
They can
demolish
figure
the
out.
old one and do some other
I see,
things.
okay.
You know, but you know, it's highly constrained. First off, it's very expensive to do all of this.
Yes,
So you have to make sure there's enough density, enough buildings constructed so that the proceeds from that building can cover the costs. There's also, the city is imposing pretty strong demands about how much housing should go in there.
right, open space.
I think the 40%
Right.
housing is part of the petition.
Is that 40% for the public, or isn't there some student housing in that, or no?
I'm not actually.
Yeah,
I should double check on that.
yeah,
But the thing is that it's supposed to be 40% residential. There are some people
Right.
argue 50% or more, 60%.
it's
Truth
not gonna
is,
happen.
you know,
MIT owns
there-
this thing. We don't
Well,
own it.
there comes a
but
point where
yeah,
it's just the economic feasibility starts to just completely collapse.
Right,
In fact, as it is right now, if you want to have as everybody would love to have a lot of open space,
yeah,
the way you buy more open space is you have to accept some taller buildings, right? So some parts of the site would be, actually here's
that's a better picture of the,
here's
yeah.
just another one sort of basically showing the site
A
right
little
here.
closer, this is the open, this is the,
Yeah, but this is
existing
showing the
Volpe
existing
facility.
buildings. So you
Oh.
see those white buildings are actually
Those are
the
the
ones that
existing ones.
exist there.
and that's
So-
gonna be gone.
So basically, those will be there while they're building that orange rectangle, right?
Okay,
Now,
okay.
if you sort of
Yeah.
scroll down a little bit, I think you'll find one whereas, they're not absolutely set yet on what the distribution of buildings will be. I've seen some where it's sort of pretty rectangular grid. There are actually the old Fifth Street, which has been discontinued for ages, will get
Here's a variety
reconnected.
of options.
Yeah. Now the thing is that
Yeah.
nobody's voting on the particular site plans yet. That's
Right.
something that would be
This is
worked
more
out.
on the PUD.
Yeah, zoning just
Right.
says what's permissible. Like for
Right.
example, the floor to area ratio for this site will be 5.2, which is not a small number, but it's in recognition of the fact that we are in Kendall Square. You're right across
Yeah.
the street from the Marriott, so
Right.
we are talking about tall buildings, and
Right,
5.2 would mean if you covered the whole site you had 5.2 floors. Of course, that's not going to happen.
right,
But you may have some buildings that are 30 floors. 30
well,
floors,
they're
like
proposing
300 feet.
a 500 feet,
Actually, for the most part, it's like a 300-foot cap. But they said if there's a building that's architecturally significant, now of course, beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Right, right,
Then you could have the planning board
Right.
give approval to a building that could be as high as
Right.
500 foot tall. But I think the criteria to permit that would probably be pretty stiff,
yeah,
right? So we're talking sort of in the 175 to 300 foot range. Yes, there are some maps, I'm not sure if it's in this one here, that actually show that, except now the device
Now
is
it's
not
not
working.
working.
It's all right. All right, so we'll just, I can sort of stroke this here, but hey, so it's not working, that's all right. So let me just sort of say, there
There
it
it
is. There we go, of course, we'll probably never be seen again.
it's okay by me.
So this just sort of shows
All right,
some of the site plan possibilities.
Right, which have been presented at numerous community
But again,
meetings.
nobody's voting on any of that yet.
The only thing they're concerned
just
is the
voting on the
zoning
zoning law
designation.
only, not on the site plan.
Okay,
But you could crowd, like in the first one after the original, you see there's some buildings sort of crowding down toward the heart of Kendall Square.
yeah.
There's 4 buildings.
There's more consolidated open space in
Right,
this
then
one.
there's an open
And
space
then
and then some
This
more
one's
buildings close to
distributed
there.
here, yeah,
There's also the ones on the north side that's sort of in light purple as well,
yeah,
right? In that one here, that the existing residential building then has neighbors on both of those sides,
that's true.
right? So I think they would prefer to have green space on one side,
Right,
right?
which is what,
and
right,
some of the
so they
other
wouldn't
ones
like
maybe do that
one.
a little bit more,
Yeah, this
right?
seems
So
to
you
be a
can see some
combination of
combination
some,
in there.
yeah. Mhm.
yeah. But as I say, we're really mainly talking about
Yeah.
the zoning aspect
Right.
of things right
This is
now
the
here.
other one, yeah.
Yeah, again, we're sort of in a little problem here because, as we say, we may never be seen again.
All right, we'll keep trying, but you
We
can
will.
keep talking about it.
Right.
All right.
All right.
There it is,
So-
it needs to be wiped or something.
Yeah. So anyway, so there's something like about a 5.2 floor area ratio. We're talking about somewhere in the vicinity of, believe 1,400 units of housing. 280 affordable units would actually come with that. You know, and
We're just,
as we
well,
say
you're
here.
looking at these, maybe I'll just, well, you know
Yeah.
what?
Oh, here we go.
There we
All
go,
right. So
finally.
we may not go back here because this.
We're never showing any more graphics until they
the
clean the
devices
screen.
here are just not functioning
Yeah.
correctly.
All
So,
right.
but we're talking about 1,400 units of housing. Now you can argue, some people are, it should be either more housing or it should be a higher percentage of affordability. But all these multiple constraints essentially conspire to the point where, in fact, that just starts to become not so possible.
Yeah.
The primary point that I would make, and I may actually say this at the ordinance committee tomorrow. If not,
Is
maybe
there
I'll
a
do
public
it
comment time?
at the ordinance committee.
Oh,
there
right,
is.
of course, yeah.
I'm not so sure about the planning board. They will have another meeting in the planning board about this,
But
right?
that's different, yeah.
But my concern is that there are people who are saying, well, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, you know, and why are you doing this, why are you doing that? Whereas I think a healthier point of view is to say, this is an incredible opportunity to really make an amazingly great place.
Yeah,
And the issue should be a little bit more on the positive side, to say,
yes,
where can this housing be that'll be great?
much
Where-
better to be positive.
In terms of the
Yep.
retail frontage, they're gonna turn Broadway,
Yeah,
that street frontage along Broadway,
Yeah.
into a continuous, I think at minimum of 65% of it will be retail frontage there and along 3rd Street. So they will actually begin to look like real streets again, with real amenities
yeah.
and real things that people want.
They'll-
They did a
yeah.
kind of a charrette down at the Marriott, and they'll do another one, I'm sure, where people got to choose, well, what kind of programming would you want in the open space? What kind of retail would you like? Would you like a
Well,
bowling
I do have
alley?
to say that at the meeting I went
Supermarket.
to that ABC had
Yeah.
them to present, people did ask about a supermarket or about food, and didn't seem to be a big, they're gonna try, but it wasn't a big
You know,
thing.
I think that probably was not how, that probably won't happen on the Volpe side, but I think there's a possibility that might happen over on the MIT South of Main Street project.
Because that's certainly
But on the
needed.
north side of Main Street,
Yeah.
next to what's it called, One Broadway building?
Is that close enough to
Pretty
there?
close
People
to,
live,
yeah.
that's a
oh,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
housing,
very
and there's
close,
really no,
really close.
you go to
Yeah.
the, what's the closest market
But they're gonna be
there?
building a building as part of this other completely separate project
Yeah,
right over, close to the Broad Canal. And they're gonna double stack that Broad Canal Way, so there'll be retail frontages on both sides in the future. And I believe there may actually be something like a mezzanine level supermarket operation, at least in one of the plans. So it could happen that way. But their proposal, like if you put in a pharmacy, everybody says we don't have a pharmacy there, right?
well,
Well-
they could put something like a super Stop and Shop that has all those things in
I
it.
think that the supermarkets are probably the lowest and worst use for high value property. That's why
Well, it's
that's why it's
unfortunate,
hard
because
to
that
keep
people
them.
need food,
They do need food.
and
Right.
these expensive restaurants aren't always gonna go over
Yeah,
big,
yeah,
so.
so we
it's
need
not- It's
something
not my
bigger.
favorite place to go to, but
True,
hey, that's
true.
what it is.
But you know, I'm just thinking to myself, my God, what a wonderful possibilities you could have here, where you actually have a real street for first time.
Yeah,
You may actually even break up Broadway, so maybe you'll have streets that continue all the way through.
it'll look nice.
So, and you'll
Yeah.
be able to pass through, so, like right now, if you wanted to go over to the Kendall Cinema, right, and you got off at the Kendall T station, you know, you have to sort of navigate around the Volpe site to get there.
Yeah, oh
Right.
no, it definitely will
So
improve what's
imagine-
there.
Yeah, imagine if you could actually
No
navigate
doubt about it.
through it, when there's open
But
space and
still,
programming
I don't know.
and shops,
I
restaurants.
believe in positivity, but did you see the front page of the Globe today? There was something about Boston and all this transit-oriented development is not matched up with the transit
Transit
infrastructure.
capacity.
And,
Right.
and I think that's a real issue. It
I think
was
it's a
brought
real
up at the
issue,
quadrangle,
But
we're
I-
gonna have
but you know
8,000
what
units.
I say about this is, it's a chicken and egg thing.
You think they'll improve the MBTA
You know,
and the service?
If this was 100 years ago, you might
Mhm.
actually just build the public transit, and then the residential buildings would then be built to match it. You know, like when they
Well, I
ran
think
the,
that's what's happening, but so
like in New York City,
far,
when they
yeah.
ran the trains going up to Harlem, next thing you know, residential
yeah,
development.
but we're
followed
getting
the
more of the
trains.
development happening and not
Right.
the transit.
Well, it's a chicken and egg.
Yeah.
I think, you know, in terms of getting the investment,
Like
you
the
know,
green
if
line
you-
extension,
right,
that's,
if the capacity, as the capacity rises, the demand for better investment rises with it. So I think
I
you have.
hope so.
Right. I think one of the things I'll say about the red line, I mean, because it's certainly not the panacea. I mean, I was stuck on the red line in a miserable way.
Recently?
Because of oh gosh, I was coming back from a walk in Boston and in the evening, and I got on down at South Station, and it was like an hour to get to Kendall. People were just bailing out and giving up.
Were they letting you off the
the
train?
operators weren't giving any information at all.
I remember reading that on your that's when they don't give information, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Well, that's what makes people not feel so confident about our
Here's the reality about the red line.
Yeah.
Is that, when you're on any red line station, 90% of the time you're looking at an empty track.
Meaning?
Well, what it means is that if you had much more frequent train, just shorter headways between the trains, because as one said, that place is in New York. When you see one train going down the track, you see the lights coming for the next one.
10 million people.
Right.
Yeah.
So the thing is one way you get more capacity is you just have more trains.
But can they actually do that? Because right now the train,
the signaling systems and other infrastructures as part of the red line are suffering from great disinvestment over many years.
I mean, the whole thing about
And
the
that's the
north-south,
problem.
I mean, I think they
But
need
can
to
the red
raise the
line-
gas tax.
Right,
That's what-
but can the red line support more capacity? Absolutely can. Right, it's just that you'll have to have more trains running, and
More
remember
people
once upon a
on
time. Remember they actually extended the platforms on the red line,
No.
and so they started running. I forget how many trains are they? 6-car trains. They
I
used to
don't
only
know.
run 4-car trains.
Yeah,
So
they
they've
definitely
already-
have more capacity.
Yeah,
right?
so they have increased
Better
capacity
buses,
by
yeah.
having longer trains, but they can also have
Yeah.
greater capacity by shorter.
Silver
headways.
Line was the best thing that happened for getting to the airport. I'll have to tell you that one.
Yeah.
That to me was a mucho success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're such a kludgy state in so many ways. We're these kludge fixes. We're holding our
Oh.
transportation infrastructure
Yeah.
together with duct tape and bobby pins.
Well, go over and look at the VU
Ridiculous.
Bridge thing. That is an amazing thing.
I actually like to do it.
Oh my
I haven't
God,
done
it is
yet, but I'd like
amazing.
to
You
make it
see the whole thing being removed. It's like there's
I'm gonna-
hundreds
I'm
of
gonna
people.
try it.
You got to get over there.
But we're
Okay.
down to our last few seconds here.
All right.
So anyway, hope we didn't bore you, and we'll see you next week on Cambridge
Exciting.
Inside Out.
Bye.